Hey there, it is Wednesday, July 29th. I always have to look at the calendar because I can never remember anymore. David Gordon from TheaterMania here with the great Ethan Slater. Hello.
Hey, David. So good to see you.
Thank you for playing today and coming on.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
My pleasure. I can't wait to talk about your new EP. It sounds great. It's called Life is Weird. It is that title could be used to describe the current state of the world that we live in, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, sure. That's definitely one of those things where that wasn't the intention originally. It's like a song written, a year and a half ago or whatever, but I guess that's what it's come to mean.
Tell me about putting this album together. When did you record it?
Yeah, we recorded it. I recorded it with Mike Dobson, who some people might know as the Foley artist from SpongeBob and the sound designer. He and Soundcat Records, which is this recording studio, we got together and we recorded it in December, January. But it started coming together a little bit earlier. We were actually playing gigs around New York, including at 54 Below and some other places, with a band that we put together. And Life is Weird is one of the songs that we were playing. And we sort of were coming to this sound that we were feeling really good about, this sort of live band sound with sort of the instruments and toys and things that we were really enjoying at the time. And so we wanted to make that project work. And so we recorded it around then and have been waiting to put it into the world a little.
Was it always supposed to be released around this time, or did you guys strategically say, you know what, let's do this now?
It was meant to be released earlier. At the beginning of June was when we were planning on releasing it. And we decided to push it back for a number of reasons that probably feel really obvious, but yeah. The main sentiment was it doesn't feel like a good time to be centering our art and to be putting out this message that life is weird when it's becoming more and more clear, and that this moment is about life being unjust for certain people, for people in, for Black people in this country. And, I think the way that COVID sort of stripped bare the inequality of our systems, of our healthcare systems, of the communities that are given and allowed resources. It all felt like too inappropriate for us to be centering our art in that way at the moment. And I'm not sure that it's the moment has passed. We're still in that moment.
Right.
So what we were doing was we spent the next 2 months, month and a half or so, trying to figure out, do we just shelve this entirely, or are there ways that we can use what we're creating and use what we're working on to be some sort of resource. We're donating all proceeds to two organizations, one called Protect Native Elders, which helps get supplies and COVID relief to Native American communities all over North America. And that's a community that's been disproportionately affected by COVID because of systemic oppression and inequality. And then the other organization is the National Bail Fund.
That's a great organization.
Which is an amazing organization. And that sort of just came out of the fact that I was sort of struggling to figure out how I could be a part of this, good change. And so I've been doing daily donations, and the National Bail Fund is one of the organizations that I come back to and sort of donate to every week. So I wanted to include that. That's sort of a long-winded, soapboxy way of saying, it feels like a constant discussion that I'm having with collaborators. What is the place for our art? What does it do at this moment? If it is directly related to society, if it is speaking to it, that's one thing. If it's speaking to sort of a different experience of life and living, then how do we still use that to be part of positive change?
Yeah. What inspired you when you were writing the two original songs on the EP?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think that the main thing that inspired me was that I was working on SpongeBob, and I was on Broadway, and there's this amazing thing that happens when you're working on a show. is that your community just grows in this huge way. And so I was getting asked by a lot of people, a lot of high schoolers, young people asking me for advice on things, asking me for advice like in their lives, in their careers. And my go-to was like, I have no idea. Advice is so impossible to give because I don't know what I'm doing.
Right. We're all just faking our way through everything.
What's that?
We're all just faking our way through everything.
Yeah, we're faking it till we make it.
Yeah.
I was saying the other day, like it's really hard to take advice because you sort of have to make mistakes on your own. But sometimes it's nice to make your own mistakes and then remember that somebody told you should do that. It helps you course correct a little bit.
Yeah.
So I was like hearing all these questions and I was thinking back to sort of high school me and all of those questions that I had that I still sort of haven't answered. And that's what inspired me to start writing Life is Weird. And then musically, I was, singing a Panic at the Disco song every night. And I sort of wanted to try a little bit of my take on what I think it's like when Brendan Urie tries to write a song.
That's really funny. It's a great album. Tell me about why you decided to cover Listomania, the Phoenix song on the album.
Yeah, so it all sort of came from the same place in some ways. Actually, so Under the Cathedral is inspired by like one specific night when I was like 20 years old and I was just filled with this angst about which direction my life was going to take. And I was literally sitting on the grounds of the National Cathedral, which is near where I grew up. And it was like, midnight. And I'm just like sitting there contemplating life choices. And it was a moment that was really formative. Like it's a 2-hour period that I can point to as changing the direction of my life. So that's where that song came from. And then Listomania was just this Phoenix song that was part of the soundtrack of my life then. I had all my friends, I was in college at the time and all my friends were listening to it. And we had gone to a Phoenix concert and it was like, this part of that soundtrack of my life. So I went back to it and there are like little lines in it that I really love and that I think about a lot in terms of, what it was like to be performing on Broadway and to like get to go out and like have the stage door and all those things. But also what that would mean to like hear things like This Is Your Time when I was 18, 19, 20. So it all sort of came from the same place and fed into itself.
Looking back, it's funny. Looking back, what was it like to perform on Broadway and to go through the stage door and all that? Like, was it what you wanted it to be? Like, was it what you dreamed it would be?
God, it's like, yeah, I guess so. It was amazing. It was an incredible experience. I mean, I didn't really dream of it. Like, I wanted it, but I didn't have any sense of what it would be like. And I don't think I told myself what it would be like because that was like too much pressure.
Yeah.
So even though it was like the thing that I wanted, I still came in with, I was just so bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, and it was exactly like it exceeded any expectation.
That's so good.
I loved doing it. I loved doing it. And I loved like getting to say hi to people afterwards. And it was a little hard.
Yeah.
Because
you're carrying that show and then you have to do the second job at 11:30 at night afterwards. So I can't imagine how winded you must have been by then.
Yeah. And you're always like preparing for the next day.
Yeah.
Like the second the curtain comes down, you're like, okay, now I've got to do a cool down stretch. I've got to vocally cool down. I've got to eat enough protein, but not so late that I get acid reflux in the morning. And like, I can't talk from now on, it's like, you're always preparing for the next day as soon as the show ends. So it was definitely like, there was that give and take, but I just loved every minute of it.
We'll come back to SpongeBob in a minute, but I want to geek out with you about Assassins.
Yeah.
Which you were 2 weeks into rehearsal when COVID shut everything down. What was the production going to be like?
My sense of it was that
if you remember at this point.
Yeah, I mean, it now feels like this beautiful dream, right? We were like working so hard to get it. We hadn't even finished staging the show yet, but there was like a real magic being found. I think the show is going to be like I don't know. Assassins is like this amazing combination of like universally prescient. Like it's always relatable to the current moment for one reason or another.
Yeah.
And then the music is so beautiful. I think in the sort of John Doyle verse of it all, it's got these amazing orchestrations that Greg Jarrett did that make it like really have this Americana feel that you and I were talking about right before. Like it's got this Americana feel that just feels really true to these characters. And I have to say, just it's a room filled with actors that I admire and feel really grateful to.
Crazy cast.
Crazy cast. Such an intimidating cast.
Yeah. Like and I'm sure everybody else is feeling the same way, but I'm sure everybody's sitting there being like looking around like Judy Q, Steve Pasquale, Will Swenson, Wes Taylor. It's like Brendan Uran. The list goes on, and you're just thinking to yourself, like, am I the weak link? Like, I don't.
There's literally not one. It's just like it's through and through. Like and like, there's this like our band, like our actor musician band, is like the most talented actors and musicians. They can play a million instruments, and we're like it's everyone from top to bottom in that room is so just like thrilling to be around. So I just can't wait for people to see it because I think it's really special.
Me too. Yeah, I really can't wait to see it. Was Sondheim involved at all in any of the process thus far?
I'm not sure. Like he's had a lot of discussions with John and I definitely with Greg about the music. He was there. He was there on our first day of rehearsal.
Was that terrifying?
Whew, like amazing. And like some people were so chill about it, and that freaked me out too because I was not chill about it. I was like, he like walked into the room, and I was like, oh wow, I actually have never felt this feeling before. And so I like backed up to try to like get out of his way to like give him a path. And then as he like gets closer to me, I realize I'm standing directly in front of his seat, like the seat that's labeled, So like I like scurry out of the way. It was amazing. So that was really super cool.
That's so cool. SpongeBob, I think, is available on Amazon to watch if anybody here hasn't seen the filmed version yet.
I mean, if we're talking about shows that seem like consistently current, SpongeBob is surprisingly one of those.
It's Kyle Jarrow, man.
Kyle Jarrow. There's this moment that I don't know if we get to talk about enough, but there's this moment in 2014 or so when we did a reading of a new draft of the script. Actually, it might have been in 2015. We had done a workshop, and I think the response from Nickelodeon was like, "Y'all are on the right path, but honestly, like, do what you want, push it. If you feel like you need to push it and like not keep it, not like, police your own tone, like just like push it, do what you need to do." And we got to this new draft, and there were protests happening in Baltimore, and there had just been an earthquake in Peru. And we sit down and we read this new draft of the script that now includes different elements of Mount Humongous and scapegoating Sandy. And we were like, this has never been more relevant. Like, I think we've just gone from something that's like wacky and fun and inventive to something that's like gonna cut through. And then each step of the way, it got more and more like that as as the world became more and more like that, but as the script also was responding to it.
Was it a hard show to do every night? Like physically and vocally, was it a hard show to do every night?
Oh yeah, it was super hard. But it was
like the dumbest question I could possibly ask you.
No, it's a sort of a good question because I feel like there's this thing that people tell you, which might be true for some people, but there's this thing that like, oh, once it's in your body, you just sort of do it. You can like roll out of bed and do it. And that was never really true for me. I spent 90 minutes warming up before every show, not including the warming up that I did as soon as I got out of bed in the morning.
Right.
It was always like a little bit hard, but it was also like the most fun thing. Like the hard parts were like playing on a jungle gym, and so it was easy to do, but always like difficult.
I was going to say that not every Broadway show you're going to be able to like scale the back wall of the set.
Right. Nor would it be appropriate in every show.
Yeah. What was the hardest song to sing?
Oh, that's a tough question. Probably the hardest song actually to sing was Best Day Ever.
Why?
Because it sits like right in the break. You're like singing, it's, it's not the highest song by any means. It's like just F sharps and G's, but you're like dancing around and it's 2.5 hours into the show. And you've like just done the ladder wall. You've just done everything. You're just like out of breath when you land and you have to like turn it up to 15, and there's like all of these elements. There's the real sincere emotion and fear at the beginning. And then there's just the unbridled joy throughout.
Yeah.
And it's these long lines that are supposed to be legato and they're sort of in your break. And it's like, it's definitely the one that took the most breath control.
Because I was going to say, you had done, I was half expecting you to say Not a Simple Sponge, but you'd sung that song so much doing like press stuff that had to have been like in your body by the time you were getting ready for the show.
That one was really fun. There was like, that is the song that has the craziest high notes in it.
Yeah.
Because it's just like sustained B naturals for like, so that one definitely, but I loved that song because it was always a moment to check in with myself and just be like, all right, I've had like a little moment with Sandy. I've had a little moment with Patrick, and we've like gotten to do sort of the interrelated character stuff. But this was a moment where I got to like be just me, like thinking about what's happening with SpongeBob. And so there was always like that fun moment. I really liked singing that one.
Were there moments in rehearsal when you and Tom Kitt, and I don't remember the name of your musical director on SpongeBob.
Julie McBride.
Were there moments when you guys were in rehearsals, like working on the material, and you were like, oh, well, clearly Brandon Urie wrote the song for himself?
Yeah, definitely yes, but also that was that key change. That key change was like a total Tom move.
Uh-huh.
There were these like dumb moments in retrospect where Tom was like, we should do this on an F sharp. Could you do a B? And I was like, yeah, of course I could do a B. He was like, are you sure? Because we could just do it on an F sharp. I was like, no, that'll be great. That'll be awesome. So there definitely were like those moments. But like there was a lot of like, okay, let's figure out, like John Legend wrote this song. Okay,
right.
Like how do you, how do you make it feel right for you when he's got this unparalleled voice?
Right.
One of my most absolutely most amazing memories from a workshop of SpongeBob is when they put in the reprise of Not a Simple Sponge, which happens while climbing the ladder wall.
Yeah.
And Tina was like, Tom, Ethan, go into the other room for an hour and come back with what you want it to be. And so I got to work with Tom, just like, he was like, what if it's in 7? What if it's in,
Yeah.
It's amazing.
That must have been so cool.
It was like, I don't know. I would say bucket list, but really it was just like the most enhancing.
Right.
I feel like I learned so much.
What was it like to film? Because you guys went to England. You guys went to like not middle of nowhere, England. Apologies to the people in the UK. But you guys like went to Plymouth or something.
Yeah.
Not like you were filming in London proper.
Right. Well, London, like 4 hours outside of London.
Right. Yeah.
No, we went to this like seaside town called Plymouth. And this amazing theater called Theater Royal. And it was a totally surreal experience. I mean, it was like I'm trying to think. It was like sort of like we were in sleepaway camp or something. We were all like staying in this hotel, walking over to the theater, spending all day there. There were like 11 cameras. It was immensely epic and probably really stressful. But all I can remember is how fun it was.
Was it nice? Was it a nice little like bit of closure for a show that was just sort of like abruptly ended?
Totally. Yeah, there was a real redemptive quality to returning to it after such a weird closing.
Yeah.
As I think people know, like the show was like sort of like we were doing well, and we were picking up even more steam. It was like all going great, and they are renovating the Palace Theater, tearing it down.
Bye.
So long. And so that was really heartbreaking for a number of reasons, not the least of which is that the Palace is just this staple, this.
Yeah.
So that was definitely tough. And getting to come back to it and sort of leave our mark in that way felt really good.
Did you watch the show? Did you watch the film version?
I did, yeah. We watched it in a big movie theater. We went to like the Times Square AMC or something. It was amazing. There's a lot of like,
yeah, I'm sure,
but it was mainly pretty special. And getting to see, I'd never seen the show before, so it was really cool to be able to appreciate all of my castmates from the audience as opposed to from a foot away from them.
And to see how shockingly well Tina Landau's vision, which was just so massive and so theatrical, translated to the screen.
Totally. And like there were projections and things that I had no idea existed, and I was like, "Oh, did you guys add that for the filming?" And Tina was like, "No, that's been there since Chicago. That's been there a long time." I was like, "Wow, I guess I've never been staring at the back of the stage."
So, Ethan, you've answered all my questions. I really appreciate your time.
Yeah, thanks for bringing me on, and I'm so glad that you enjoyed the EP. And if anyone wants to listen, check it out on Spotify and all that.
Yeah. You heard it here first. Hear it on Spotify.
Yeah, hear it on Spotify. And the only last plug I'll say is, listen to it wherever you listen to music, and consider after you listen to it, before you listen to it, instead of listening to it, going to protectnativeelders.org, seeing what they're about, and throwing whatever you might have spent on the EP, which you're getting as a streamer, to them, because they're doing really amazing work, as is the National Bail Fund.
Yeah. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody, for watching. Have a good rest of your day, everybody. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.